All right. Woo. Look. I got that wow. Who wants some hands up right now? We got that. Turn it up loud. I know you're wondering how. I got that wow. Here I go, coming. I can't ever stop. I'm a tour de force running. Get me to the top. I don't need a.
Hello.
Hello,
ladies.
How is everyone?
Good. And how about you?
I'm good, except I'm dealing with some technical glitches on my end. Do I look okay?
Yeah, you look good.
We do. You do. We can see you.
Oh, that's good because I can't see me. I'm looking at a green box. That's what my screen looks like. So
Always. Seems like we always have something weird.
yeah, I don't know why. Oh well.
Well, this is Three Cocktails In, a podcast where we always have technical difficulties.
That is our tagline. It could be our tagline.
Yeah, maybe it should be. Yeah.
Technically challenged, but here for the ride.
Right? I know.
Yeah.
We usually get it figured out. We honestly do. And that kind of segues into our topic this evening, which we are going to talk about the different generations, describe them, define them. And, one thing about us, Gen Xers, we morphed along with technology. We learned it along the way. Didn't always have cell phones. And gosh, we didn't always have a microwave, for instance, silly things like that. So, a lot of differences between how we learn technology and, Gen Z and younger.
Yeah.
Does so well with technology.
I remember my first computer class in high school, and it was coding.
Same.
Oh my God. It was during basketball season. I was a junior. There was a really brilliant girl on the basketball team. And of course, the high school didn't have enough computers for everybody to have their own. So you had groups of 3 huddling around one massive computer. Mm-hmm. And two of us teamed up with Eileen, and that's the only way I got through that class. Just tagged my name right on the back of everything else because I had no clue what was going on. None.
Yeah. And it just seemed so, what is this? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Where are we going to use this?
Right.
And,
and a lot of the programs that we did make or code, we had a real hard time, as I remember, just like you were saying, deciding how is this, how are we going to use this? Like, I think some of the things I made were, banners, long banners of some, welcome to something, was one thing. I tried to make a, graphic of a kangaroo hop across the screen, and it was all, you know what I mean? And that was the thing. I agree. It was hard to decide, what are we supposed to use this for?
Yeah.
And even into college, I used it basically as a glorified typewriter.
Yes.
Right.
Because we didn't really do any research on it. You still went to the library.
Right? Yeah. I think that was the only thing that we did with it in college, is that we could go to the computer lab to type up our paper.
Type it, save it, and print it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I know. Very interesting. So Jen, we all know baby boomers, up to the mid 1960s, Gen X, 1960s to very early 1980s. And right after that, we have the millennials. And, I swear they used to be called the Gen Y. I know they were. because they
Yeah.
asked why. They asked why, and so they were Gen Y, and then we had
Oh.
Gen Z. But anymore, they get called the millennials. That time from, um,
Okay, time out. You associated them being Gen Y because they asked why? I thought it was Y2K. I thought it
um,
was the turning, and that's
same.
how it became millennials.
Probably why it got switched to millennials. But no, it really was. I'd heard that before. 'Cause Gen Y, because they asked why. They asked
Hmm,
what.
interesting. Did not know
Because
that.
Y2K didn't come until a few years into Gen Z.
Correct. Because
Right.
I believe Gen. Now I have to look at my
I
notes.
think I think Ava at 1999 is considered the very last of the
Yeah,
millennials.
millennials ends at 2000. Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
So she is very end. Yep. And I've noticed with the years they kind of overlap a little too, because technically,
Yeah.
you know, um, I
She
think
is very different than my older two, who are
oh,
definitely millennials.
millennials. Oh
And
yeah,
there's only 3.5 years difference between them, but
right. Yeah. Yep. I know. So let's see here. Like the difference, if you looked at the difference between Gen Z and millennials, definitely both tech savvy, but millennials, almost like us too, technology, they were still growing with new technology all the
yeah.
time.
They
Whereas
started with
Gen
cell
Z,
phones that
right,
were just for calling
just for calling and then
and
if
texting.
right. Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas Gen Z, that's all they have known is the smartphone and, all of the same technology we have today.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one reason, one difference. Another difference between millennials and Gen Z, millennials like platforms like Facebook, Instagram, where Gen Z likes the visual, TikTok, Snapchat, those kind of platforms, which I thought was probably true.
Also, when you talk about that, Facebook, Instagram requires typing, sharing thoughts.
Mm,
Snapchat,
yeah.
TikTok, not so much.
No, it's
Mhm.
picture or video
Yeah.
recording. Yeah,
Yeah.
not a lot
Kind
of
of feeding into that idea that the Gen Z, not big talkers on the phone,
mm,
don't want to call anybody.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Social issues are a little different. The Gen Z is often seen as more vocal and active in advocacy and activism, particularly on issues like climate change and social justice. And I would have to say that's probably true. I think even for we've talked about this. Even the brands they use, they will navigate towards social issues that they like and away from things and companies that they don't like their
Political
Their
stance. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
political, social, environmental, all that
Yep.
kind of things. Yep. Yeah.
I
Yeah. It's a focus. They have a heightened focus on what brands am I going to attach my brand to.
Mhm.
Their personal brand is very important. Not. I mean, not to say that I don't know. I mean, many people would say that, not just that generation, but that is something that um, has certainly risen to the top, and it's so much easier to see with all of the social media that we have and the visibility that we have with
yeah.
companies and corporations.
I think that that the millennials and Gen Z economically feel like they're not making as much money as their parents, that they are at disadvantage in a number of different categories for whatever reason. So they have figured out early on money talks.
Mhm.
And so they're very particular about where they're going to spend their dollars
Yeah.
and what companies align with them. And I think that's fantastic.
Mhm.
I just commend them for that. Do you know how much work that would have been? Am I back?
You're
You're
back.
back. You're unfrozen. Try your thought again.
Okay, yeah.
How much
I
work
was
that
just
would have
saying
been.
that it's so much easier for them to see and choose to use their money with companies that align with their vision, and
Mhm.
how much harder it would have been for us to figure that out,
Mhm.
because we aren't instantly, we would have had to research,
Yeah.
and that meant going to the library, digging in archives, looking, up
Yep.
a whole lot of stuff. So I think that that's really awesome that, yes, they're global. They have so much technology at their fingertips. They're well aware, and they make decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Based
I
on
think we
the
could take note from them.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
They just
Um,
they have so much, what you said, they have so much more at their fingertips. I mean, if it would be nice, wouldn't it be great to be able to go back and live those years that we lived with the modern technologies that we have today? I mean,
With
there's
the
some,
exception of the video camera
with the
documenting
exception
everything
of,
we did.
right,
yeah.
exactly. We are grateful that we did not have uh, the cameras, the cell phone, everything when we were, you know, living our best lives in those
Yes.
early days. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. So, sometimes I look. So here's an example. Sometimes I look at the younger generations, and again, I'm always going to cite these influencers that I follow. These women who live in Nashville, and they are in their 30s. I'm going to say mid 30s, and these women are printing money as influencers. Okay, they are. And so this life that they're living, they're having babies and they've got everything, and everything you need and everything you don't need, but they think that they need, right?
Right.
And that's not bitter that I just said that, but um, but I look at this, and they're doing these pregnancy shoots, and they've all got the fabulous fashions, and I will open our photo album and I will look at pictures of me pregnant and wearing the tent dress, or whatever. And we didn't look like that.
No.
And
No.
and we would have been so fabulous.
What do we
But
have?
yes,
Well,
I think
I'm
we
gonna
would, but it was, those fashions didn't exist then. And
No.
right. Yeah.
No.
just all of the, they're putting together their baskets to take to the nurses, to the nurses station. And I'm not saying that I would do all of those things, but it is a completely different world. And I'm sure a lot of it is driven because we've got social media. So people put these things out there and then everybody's like, well, I want to do that. Well, I want to do, even though I can't afford that, I want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really glad in those instances that we didn't. I mean, you wearing the tent dress, I remember the first photos that were taken of me with the baby. There was no makeup bag
No,
that came with me. There
no.
was hair, off to the it was
Yeah.
just
the,
looking
the
like
big, the big
the
glasses.
the big glasses. Oh, I didn't even have my glasses on, it just was pretty motley, and that's just
Yeah,
fine. Um, but yes, because they have the ability to see what other people are doing.
yeah,
Um,
Yeah. And then they do the same thing. Yeah. I would not have been able to afford the big, you see some of the maternity pictures, they have these big, long, flowing, dresses that have to costs some money. I mean, yeah, I think I bought two maternity dresses at Walmart that couldn't have been very,
Yeah.
again, tent dresses. And yeah, it's interesting that they're very beautiful. They are,
Yep.
some of the photo shoots they do. I just always, yeah.
It kind of brings me to one of the things that I really like about the younger generations. In contrast, if we want to go all the way back to when we were having our babies, I would not have wanted a pregnancy photo shoot.
Yeah.
I felt like a round Oompa Loompa through the whole thing. I don't think I was very aware and necessarily really super concerned about the gaining of the weight and how I looked. I did much better with Ava. By then, I think I had started to go to the gym and didn't gain as much weight. But I think younger generations, women in their 30s and even younger, they do a far, far better job of maintaining a good, healthy lifestyle. Healthier, they know how to work out. They're doing it. I mean, I saw something the other day and it was a whole spoof on the Billy Blanks, Ty Bo
Yeah.
DVDs that we used to do, and some of the stupid but that was what we did. Now there's so much more out there, and there's so much better about what can I do at home. I can use resistance bands. I can go to yoga. I can do Pilates. I can do it online. I can ride a bike in my living room. All these different things. I think that they do a far better job of taking care of themselves for the long run.
It seems to be more of a priority. And I
Yes.
think that's one of the priorities that you hear a lot of people talking about, younger generations and ours too, is that work isn't everything. And when people are, chasing this elusive work-life balance, which I think we all will just say it really doesn't exist. It's going to always be like this. There will be times where you have to focus more at work, and there will be times where you have to focus more family. And as long as you've got a structure where it can flex, that's balance probably. But there's more
big
focus,
picture balance,
big
not
picture
a short-term balance. Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
But there's just more focus on, my work is not my life.
Mm-hmm.
And we learned a lot from that.
Late.
Right.
Late.
Yeah.
Very late.
Yeah.
I saw a great video. I thought it was great. I think I've said a number of times that as I've started this whole new career as 50-something person, I'm taking pages from the younger generation on whatever. And a woman was saying that, and I think it does hold true, that the younger people job hop, as we would call it,
Yeah.
for two reasons. If they're not learning and they're not earning, at their position, they're going to go somewhere else.
Yep.
The learning part, am I learning skills that I can see where I'm going to be able to progress in this position to get me to my goal? Or am I earning more money where I'm at? And if those two things aren't happening, they're out of there. And we did not do that.
Right.
No.
I remember, well, and I even remember freaking out when my kids wanted to leave a position before they'd been there a couple years. And they're like, no, why do I have to stay? This is, I don't want to say a means to an end, but the
Right.
job is not their life.
Yeah. Yeah. We thought we needed to stay, get some good training, and be able to move to a higher position based on what it took, possibly years to learn, and then job hop to something higher and better. or try to get a better position within the same company. Never occurred, I think, to most of us that we learned enough here. Let's move on to, something else, maybe laterally. Some go backwards, honestly, sometimes just because this isn't what they want, they're going to go find something else.
Yeah.
And I would have been scared to death. You know what I mean? To do that. So,
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
also think who did the hiring when we were, who were we applying to? They were the silent generation, the
right.
baby boomers that were ahead of us. Loyalty mattered.
Yeah.
Paying your dues mattered.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that, as we phase out, and I think we adapt. I'm gonna say it. I think we adapt far better than baby boomers. We're like, yeah, okay, why not? Sort of
Yeah.
thing. So
Mhm.
I think that it has become much more the norm.
Yeah, I do too. It kind of irritates me sometimes when, my kids will say things like, "Oh, you don't know technology, or you don't, you know, you can't do technology." I think that's boomers. They really were scared of it, won't try anything new. Obviously, that's a generalization. Some will. I think we were very easily, um, we know how to Google. We aren't afraid of it and can figure it out. Whereas I think it's boomers that have more of that issue than I think we do.
I think we
We
figured out we were going to have to figure
We
out
were
how to
going
do
to have
it.
to figure it out. Right.
Yeah, and it was all being developed while we were early in our careers. So we were using it as it was evolving. These younger generations, they were born into it already existed. It was just put into their hands and and so it was just like learning a language when you're
Mhm.
Yeah, in
5
sixth grade.
versus yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am, and I've said this to Bo, I've said this to Bill. I am not going to be that person ever who will say, "Oh yeah, I don't know how to do that. I don't want to learn that." We will age more gracefully, and we will get more out of our lives the more in tune and educated, um, with all of the technology that's going to continue to evolve. So whatever is new that's coming, it's like, yeah, tell me about it. Show it to me. Let me use it because I am not going to be that person.
I
Yeah.
know. Yep. Yes, very much. I might not do it very well. That could be true. But
And
try
if
it
my
out.
kids are around, I'm still going to play the old, oh, help your mother card.
Sure.
But for myself, I will do what I can,
Yeah.
to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a thought when you were talking about that Gen Z, is more conscious of, making healthy choices and healthy lifestyles. I would have to agree. The difference between, what I see my kids now as they have babies and small children, they're doing all the research. I sometimes even think it's overkill, but I mean, did we ever pay attention to what we were feeding them? Heck no. You know what I mean? That it was just, you know, we
I
didn't go.
remember getting a little worked up with my
Go ahead.
I remember getting a little worked up with my dad giving my kids drinks of pop at 2 and a banana split, and oh, they're fine. Oh, Amy, you're fine. And so I can see I don't have any grandkids, but maybe that's just our cross to bear as young parents. We have to listen to what our I mean we listen. We don't have to do.
Right.
So when I say we have to listen to our parents, yeah, I meant like you're just going to hear it. You're under no obligation to do any of it. But
Yeah. It goes back to that. We didn't really have the resources you know, I mean, sure, everybody knew you were feeding your kids, meat, vegetables, fruits, not a lot of junk. But, they, I know, Madison does so much research on, possible allergen foods, you know what I mean? And introducing them very slowly and paying attention. It's like, oh my gosh, no, it would have just been try this. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
just interesting. They just have so many more, so many resources to look,
Yeah.
things they follow that,
Yeah.
so it's just interesting. Very different.
Yeah. It's good that the information at our fingertips is being used. And I think they're also risk takers so much more than, and part of it is that willingness or that ability to just say, this isn't serving me, I'm going to move on from it. Going back to the job situation, right? That to
Yeah.
us would have been very risky behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there, there's a fearlessness with them that is a good quality. It can be a very
And they
good.
stand up for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas, we've talked before, we wouldn't say half the stuff that we've heard in, in a work setting or somebody being so bold.
Yeah.
We think it's bold. There,
Mhm.
I said it. I think it's bold.
Mhm.
They're not wrong. So they're really good self-advocates.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just
We
don't make
would
them call you on the phone to tell
right.
you.
Yeah. We would have just sucked it up and taken it and just moved on where they very easily to call out, you know, things that are
Mhm.
going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, so I don't remember which recession it was. I think it might have been 2008, 2009, somewhere period, and people were losing their jobs, and every companies were tightening their belt and letting people go. And I worked for a small company at the time, and I want to say we went, I mean, very, very small company, like 15 people, maybe 18 people. And we went from 18 to 13 in a layoff. And the people who were being let go, they were the probably the youngest in the group. And I remember one of them. Oh, and so then for a while, salaries were frozen for a while. And actually, I think salaries were reduced for a little while. I mean, 2008 was that was a tough year.
Yeah.
So I think we all took a pay cut. And I remember a few of them talking, and I was just kind of on the fringe of the conversation, and they were just talking about how ridiculous it was and how awful it was and how much they were being taken advantage. And I said, you guys, we're lucky to have this job. Remember all those people that got let go? So I know our salaries were reduced, but we're lucky to have this job. And they looked at me like I had just said the most offensive thing ever. And then I was shocked because I'm like, what are you shocked at? What is, and I felt that was really true. We were lucky to have the job. You can sit and grouse about the fact that we had to take a pay cut. It'll come back. If you don't like it, then go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is interesting. That still is a sticking point for people. Know somebody that they're kind of the company would like to consider themselves a startup, but they're in a really big industry and they kind of have a niche, a hold on their product. And they had mandatory overtime and they did not pay people for it. So in essence, employees took a 20% pay cut because they had to work 50-hour weeks. That did not go over very well, but they stuck through it because they thought it was, this is what we have to do to get us from A to B.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now they're at B. They've been working at B for a while, and there's rumors that the company's going to do it again. And now the people are like, nope, you are not doing that to us again. You said that that's what we needed to do to get to hear from there, but I'm out.
Yeah.
This, you are not giving me in return more days off. You're not giving me flexibility for this. You're just telling us we have to work an extra 10 hours a week, and we're getting nothing for it. And the fact that you didn't figure out how to better use the dollars that we have and hire somebody to, no, there's no, and I think I think I agree with them, that's an error on management's part that they can't figure out how to make things work. You can't
Yeah.
hold people,
Yeah.
so
Or you would think you come out the other side and then they get a raise, better benefits, something after
yep,
weathering
nothing.
through the bad time, and it just went back to the same old thing. Yeah, that would be disappointing
Yeah.
the second time around. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that's
So,
interesting. Hmm.
yeah,
would
I
it be
wonder if
good?
people
That
do
would be
feel,
hard to keep people.
yeah. I wonder if people do feel lucky to have the job.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so anymore. I think, with I don't know. Is I don't really pay much attention to unemployment, but it would seem like it's fairly easy to get a job. I think that's the thing. I think people think, well,
Well,
I
I
can
think
go get
unemployment's
something
up and we're
different.
going to watch.
Yeah.
We're going to see what happens.
What happens? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, again, entrepreneurship is core to the millennial generation, so much so that there's now a degree. You can go
Yeah.
to college and get a degree in entrepreneurship. And yeah, they're just more apt to, well, I'll just start my own company, or I'll just freelance, or um, work for myself. So that's where that
Right.
creativity comes into play as well. And again, that's something that we all have looked at and said, yeah, I like it.
Yep. It was interesting. I don't know if it was in the pre-meeting or if Stacy, you started talking about it right at the beginning, that the younger generations are known to be more creative.
Yeah.
And I was like, is that really true? Because I think we have some wonderfully creative people that have thought up all these technological advances.
Right.
But I do think that those younger generations are more personally creative. How can I think out of the box? I don't think they have boxes. I don't even
Right.
think that the phrase thinking out of the box
Yeah.
applies to them. There
Yeah.
is no box. And they are looking at, what's the next move? How do I get from here to there? What do I feel that I'm really good at?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I make that into something?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you see all the younger people on TikTok, monetizing their brand. That is obviously not something we would have ever considered, even if we had the opportunity. I don't think that we would have done that as easily as they seem to do.
That's what models and celebrities did,
Yes. Right.
not us normal people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Finger bunnies,
Yep.
you know.
I agree. Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. I think there's a lot to be learned, and they millennials not so much. I don't think they're taking too much of a bad hit right now. But Gen Z does take a lot of crap,
Yeah.
blanket statements and stereotypes. But I think that there's a lot that we can be learning from them that would make our lives better.
Certainly. Yeah.
I agree.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think all of the focus on social media has been bad, obviously. I think there is some, the fact that they've had social media for most of their lives and been on their phone, addicted to their phone a lot. But there's still positives to it. I also, as well.
I'm really intrigued to see how the millennials and the Gen Z raise their kids
Hmm.
with social media, having been through it themselves, because
Yeah.
we didn't go through it.
No.
So
Yeah.
I
Will
want to
they
see
do
how
it
they,
differently?
yeah,
Yeah.
how will they do it differently? What is their answer?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, very interesting conversation about all of the age
Yes.
groups.
So do we have any shots of
We have
things that we've
shot.
learned from younger generations?
Oh,
I'll
go
this
ahead.
is just a stupid one,
Yeah.
but I've gotten to this place in my life where I'm making some better money, and I have always loved skincare products and lotions and makeups and whatever. But I've watched enough now that there are some people that are like, yeah, this little NYX, this NYX brand that's at Target and CVS and Walgreens that is just so inexpensive, comparatively speaking. I've come full circle. I'm going back to some of these things. Lip liners, eyebrow fillers. I have decided that I have wasted $11 on things before.
Yeah.
I'm going to give $11 eyebrow pencil a shot instead of going out and buying the $32 one. So
Yeah.
thank you to the influencers that I have been watching and seeing on the different social media sites, and just normal people that are saying, I've tried this. This worked. I've tried this. This is crap. Don't buy it. I'll report back and see how the new eyebrows work in the next couple
Good.
weeks. See if I can
Excellent.
handle it, and see if I don't look like I drew them on, with a
Mm.
big old Sharpie. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
try the inexpensive stuff on occasion.
Yeah. It's a good idea. Yeah. You
Mhm.
feel like you're not wasting as much money if you don't like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
How about you guys? What do you got?
Well, I wasn't prepared for that tonight. For that
Twist on it? That
Yeah.
narrow?
Twist.
narrow. Yeah. I actually didn't have a shot tonight.
That's up. Hey, you know what? We can even use that as something we've learned from the younger generations. I'm not sure they do a lot of shots like we did.
Like
Oh.
we did.
Sorry.
Oh, I think when they turn 21 or before they turn 21, I think they're doing their fair share.
Yes.
I do think they party different than we did. Admittedly so. They at that age did a lot better job of having the designated driver and
Being
partying.
responsible.
Yes, being responsible and having a party at a at a residence and staying there and not driving and that kind of thing than we ever did.
Well, I mean, and I'm not talking about when people turn 21.
Yeah.
I'm talking about going out with my daughters and they're ordering a glass of wine.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't think I got into wine till I was in my 30s.
Oh,
That
yeah.
wasn't something we did. But
Yeah.
there was many a night that we started our pre-party at home and went to the bar, and the first thing we did was order a round of shots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our shot. Avoid the shots.
Avoid the shots.
Avoid the shots at the bar.
By all means.
Nothing good ever comes from them.
Just not worth it. No.
No. When was the last time somebody offered you a shot?
Hmm.
Were you on vacation, Kitty?
No. I think we were up at Willie McCoy's one night, and Bo and his buddies were up there, and Bo doesn't drink, but the other guys, they like to have a few, and they like to do shots, and so like Mama Kitty, Homie Bill, that's what they call Bill.
Homie Bill.
Let's do a shot. And we're like, dude, I am not gonna do a shot. And they're always trying to get us to do shots. And we're like, no, not gonna do a shot.
Yeah, because they wouldn't want to see you sip it.
No, they would not.
I know.
It's too painful for me trying to do a shot.
How about you, Stacy?
Oh, I don't
party
know.
Did you crash of your kids that you would have done one?
Right? Oh, it's been sooner than that. It's certainly been sooner than that. One football game this fall, we did a shot board. So, and it was even coincidentally, so like, yeah, the shot ski, exactly. And there was this group of people near us tailgating, and they were doing the shot ski. And so 4 of us went over and we did the shot ski with them. So that wasn't that long ago.
What was it? What was the alcohol?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't know.
Fireball?
It wasn't Fireball. No,
Ugh.
I don't know. It was something gross. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Fireball or any kind of shot. No.
Yeah.
Because you remember, I'm the weak drinker, like everybody,
Yes.
We talk about cocktails and wine and whatever, but my cocktails are very weak. I like to taste more pop than I do alcohol. So, yeah, shots, I don't like it, but I don't turn them down very often. So you never know.
We are gamers.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Well,
Silly.
cheers to the millennials.
Right.
And Gen Z. And
Gen
Z.
Alpha.
Yep. They do.
And those who came before us.
Right.
Yeah.
As much as we give them all heck, and they're actually pretty good. They're doing some good things for sure.
They are.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Cheers, ladies.
Well, cheers. You guys have a good week.
Yes,
Yeah.
you too.
You
I wish-
too.
Can you see this? Hopefully next week I'll be able to see.
I know.
me instead of a green
Yeah.
screen.
Right. I hope you figure out your technology.
Yeah.
Problem.
If a Gen Z person would like to help me out with this, I'd be more than appreciative.
Just unplug it and plug it back in.
There you go. Reboot. Reboot it. Yep. Fix it.
There we go. All right.
All right.
Bye.
Peace
Bye.
out.
All right. Woo. Look. I got that wow. Who wants some hands up right now? We got that. Turn it up loud. I know you're wondering how. I got that wow. Here I go, coming. I can't ever stop. I'm a tour de force running. Get me to the top. I don't need an invitation. I'm about to start a celebration. Let me in. Brought a good time plus some friends. Turn it up loud past 10.